I have a friend who is a retired auditor. He used to work in the government of New South Wales, auditing schools. He always had to remain confidential in any discussion, but I said, what sort of people actually steal money from the school? I mean, how do they get such sophisticated systems in place to do things that are just completely wrong and get kickbacks and all sorts of things from people when, as a principal or as an executive officer or some particular role that they play in an office at a school, the bursar or something of that notion, they have got a responsible position, and the funds that they are presiding over are being used for their kids' education, or at least children's education in the community to which they work and are responsible for. And my friend said, Wayne, you'd be really surprised the type of people I catch and that they get prosecuted, and in the end, even if you think you've got away with it, be sure your sins will find you out at some point. Then I read today on Flow News 24 where a principal has been rorting the school that he belonged to for $23,000 on gambling, booze and associated holidays. And it was between 2016 and 18, cheques for school equipment were deposited into the principal's own bank account at his request, resulting in the misuse of these funds. The Ombudsman in Victoria's Deborah Glass, she declined to name the principal or school in her report, which was released on Monday, but said the case showed problems with the financial governance of Victorian schools. And to make matters worse, it's the fifth time in the recent years that a school principal in Victoria has been publicly sanctioned for this act. Ms Glass had said the Education Department missed red flags and opportunities to hold this principal into account. He had been a teacher for decades. He was declared bankrupt himself before his appointment at the school as a principal in one of Melbourne's growth corridors with a budget of $10 million. In 2017, he obtained the proceeds of cheques totalling about $8,800 before going on an overseas holiday to which his partner was pressuring him to contribute $10,000. The cheques had been slated for school laptops, which the principal only purchased with $10,000 provided by his partner, and shortly before a scheduled Education Department financial audit the following year. I guess a case of taking it out and then putting it back at a later point. Money was also used for a $1,200 hotel lunch for staff, including booze and $10,000 worth of stamps over 3 years, and thousands of dollars of gift cards, including at least one for alcohol. The principal spent about $315,000 on gambling and lost $40,000 of his own money in the same period of time. So it was significant personal expenses that maybe caused this, and their private school fees, renting an inner-city apartment, purchasing of other beachside penthouse accommodation in Queensland, among other things that the Ombudsman has highlighted. And interestingly enough, they said that they weren't going to name the school or the principal. They said they didn't think the conduct exposed in the report was systemic, and that they did not think that many principals were helping themselves to school funds to support gambling addictions and extravagant lifestyles. The principal in this case was able to get away with his actions as long as the system and controls were not at work. The principal, who no longer works at the school or in Victoria's public service, acknowledged his mistake and poor judgment. After the principal's removal, he paid around $6,900 in outstanding school funds. The Education Department accepted Ms Glass's recommendation and considered referring the principal's conduct to Victoria Police, which was briefed on the matter. The spokesperson for the department said it remained committed to improving financial management in schools to prevent fraud and corruption. I reckon this is something that the opposition spokesperson for education in Victoria, David Hodgett, should get his teeth into. He's the member for Croydon and also Minister in the shadow portfolio for education and early childhood and higher education, training and skills. It's his portfolio. Why, in the circumstances that we can see here, is it that they don't think it's systemic? My understanding, at least from the notions that I picked up from a friend in New South Wales on this particular topic, is that these matters are significantly more regular than what the public may think and what the public may be informed about, and probably because they do not identify the principal or the school involved quite often. It means that the folk at the school continue to let it go unnoticed, and therefore the checks and balances aren't put in place. Maybe the shadow spokesperson for education in Victoria, David Hodgett, would be able to get his teeth into something like this. Surely we need to stamp out what is effectively taking our taxpayer-funded money that's given to our kids for schooling and being rorted in the system by somebody.